Hi everyone, what's up, what's up, what's up? Hello, hello? Hello? Hi. I feel like I'm too high in the frame. Is that crazy?
That looks good.
I don't know if it's good.
I like it.
Corey, you believe Giannis actually gets traded? Yeah, probably not, this year. They're probably in the summer. Not muted, nice. No, I'm pretty good. I've leveled up. Hello, everybody. Hello, I'm sad I haven't been here for any of the previous parts. Happy to be here for the finale. Well, we will, recap the entire list at the end. Did Felicia ever answer your text? Yes, she did. She said that she would have voted for Cameron begrudgingly. But she said you'd have to listen to the speeches, so it's jury's still out who was right. You have Sham's notifications on? I don't, but I am online. I'm on Reddit is probably how I'd find out about any big blockbuster trades. Belichick not making the Hall of Fame is a disgrace. It's just kind of a reflection of the type of person he is, right? Obviously, that shouldn't affect. Like, he's a legendary coach. He should obviously be first ballot, probably the best coach of all time. It's just like, I don't mind him not getting voted in. He seems like a shitty person. But anyways, hi everyone. We'll go through the Reddit eventually, but we're going to spend a lot of time in these rankings. It's 16-1 today. I put a lot of thought into it. My ultimate conclusion, I was not able to make these rankings in a way that I'm happy with. I'm looking at my list right now, and there's some people that I feel like should be higher, some that should be lower, but in my head, like, I'm looking at this person who should be way ranked better, but I definitely don't have them ranked higher than this person, because I saw them go against each other, and I thought this person was better than that person. A lot of conflicting thoughts in my head. I'm going to try to make sense of it as I'm describing and explaining and justifying my rankings. But beyond that, we're just going to let it ride. Now, here's the thing. I do carry a massive burden on my shoulders. That burden being, once I rank these players, that's permanent. It's inscribed in stone. Everyone's going to have to refer to these players, with their, their given ranking. So I understand the responsibility thrust upon me. And I'm going to do my best to fulfill that duty accordingly. He's a Trumpy. Belichick being a Trumpy is not the problem at all. Like, obviously, if you're a Trumpy, I think you're a shitty person. It's just like, even if he was, like, apolitical, he'd still be a shitty person because of how he treats people and dating a, 20-year-old. Which, by the way, shout-outs to her. She's killing it. Jordan, I knew her last name at some point. Jordan Woods? Is that an actor? I don't know. Not Jordan Sparks. That's American Idol. Happy birthday, Tom. I can rate higher because I basically view her as a two-time winner. Who are you talking about? Who's a two-time winner? Jordan Hudson, that's the one. See, that's why I was thinking Jordan Sparks. It's the American Idol thing. Rachel. How's Rachel a two-time winner? You count in Fear Factor? Or you're just saying because she was never evicted? She wants to date him as well. 20 as an adult, let her be. Maybe this is a hot take. When you're 20 years old and someone else is 70 years old, you both are allowed to date each other. That's true. That's a fact. I'm also allowed to judge, and I will. Because I think it's worthy of judgment. Of course, she's getting a lot out of the arrangement, too. Like, I get it. But I get to look at Bill Belichick and say, you're a weird man for doing that. It's a strange thing. She is so much younger than all of your daughters. She's granddaughter age. 50 years is a hell of a gap. It's a gap. Her brain isn't fully formed yet. I mean, I wouldn't even say that's the issue. Like, I just think it's weird. Isn't it just weird, guys? Is there a crazy defense I gotta do? Is this a hill anyone wants to die on? My philosophy is if you ever look for the bylaws of exactly what the age of consent is, you've already gone too far. It's not weird at all. Older men like hot young women. They both get a lot out of the arrangement. It's not weird, lol. I believe you have a prompt. I'm going to be honest. It feels like the entire chat is on one side of the debate and you're on the other, and I respect you holding down the fort. I just wish your argument was not the one you have. It's transactional. No, I get it. Look, I'm not judging her. She can do whatever she wants. I'm judging Bill.
Your dad's saying no.
I'm choosing not to have my dad elaborate. Thank you, Mountain Doofus. BB 25 months subscribed. Good one. Video games serve RBB. So is that Survivor, Amazing Race, and BB? I love it. What's up, video games? Is that Keanu's burner? I hope not. But then again, I'm 35 and date 65-year-old men. Here's the other thing. That's very different. That is incredibly different. Being 35 and choosing to do it versus being 20. Like, we're talking, okay, 2 years ago, this is statutory rape. You are 35 years old, a fully mature woman who's living her life. It is different. I think that should be acknowledged, right? 35, 65 is not as bad as 65 and 20. I think once you hit a certain age, it's like, all right, truly, who fucking cares? We also debate that without Brady, Bill isn't shit. Yeah, that's much more important. I mean, look, without Bill, Brady is still a great quarterback, provided he gets the opportunity to play. Does he have as many Super Bowls? No. Patriots defense carried him to a few of the early ones. But he would still be successful. I think Bill without Brady is more surefire. Like, he's not who he is without Brady. How are you top 15? Let's be real. Top 20 is more like it. I feel very strongly about this, that people who scoff at rankings have not done the rankings themselves. Because, like, that's usually how this comes down, where you're like, come on, that person is not top 10, and then you struggle to get to 10 names. You know what I mean? She's 24, not 20. When did they start dating? When she was 22? Look, to each their own. And I will continue judging. But I'm glad to know my dad's on the front lines defending him. Dad, keep fighting the good fight. For all I know, the Cardinals are going to hire my dad as the next head coach. It's bad. How can Brady get in if Bill doesn't get in? They're both going to get in. It's just Bill's not first ballot, which is crazy, admittedly. But, you know. Who have you guys even interviewed? It looks like we're going to get Mike LaFleur, maybe waiting for Kubiak, but no way Kubiak chooses us over the Raiders or just going back to Seattle. She dated another 70-year-old before him, too. Do you want me to, like, castigate her? Is that what you're asking me to do? I'm not saying, like, she's been groomed. I just think it's weird. If I was 70, you can't catch me with a 20-year-old. A Dolphins fan, I'm a Cardinals fan. Okay, let's look at the Reddit. And then we'll get to the rankings. Because people found it outrageous I'm top 15. Top 5 is when people are really going to get upset. All right, there's not too many. I think there's like 2 posts I really want to look at here. Twist season 15, don't care. America's player, or, you know, the MVP is one of the stupidest twists of all time for very obvious reasons. You can't do MVP with America's voting when Alyssa Slater is on the cast as Rachel's sister when Rachel just won the show a year and a half ago. Okay, who's the all-time best pre-jury player? I think I'm amazed every time this conversation pops up just how few viable answers there are. Because we're not counting all-star seasons. I hope that's assumed. There's just no one. Like, there's no one in that group who you're like, legit, they're really good. The most common answers are Clay Honeycutt which I do not understand it. Look, very strong, running the house, that kind of vibe. He's the big guy. But didn't he quit, essentially, when it was him and Shelly on the block? He, like, gave up and let her succeed. He essentially quit from the game. Am I crazy? I wasn't a live feeder at the time, so correct me if I'm wrong. That feels invalidating to me. If someone quits, absolutely not. That's a deal breaker. Especially when he could have stayed. So I don't understand. I feel like everyone leaves that out. Izzy, I just don't think is an answer. I think that's not a viable answer at all. Izzy is one of the best pre-jury characters. I think one of the better pre-jurors. It's just the reason why she's such an amazing character is why she can't be, as great of a player, I think Brooklyn's my answer, just because I didn't see any flaws. Joseph, you just can't do it with that social game. There's no way. And then everyone else doesn't have any data. Dominic Briones, maybe, I don't know. We didn't see much. That's the whole point of pre-jurors, is like, I think we're going to find the best pre-juror of all time very soon with these super long seasons and really long pre-jury phases. I think it's actually pretty likely. I was extremely close to being a pre-juror, and I think I have a great argument for best pre-juror of all time if I get backdoored after Cameron comes back as a zombie. I think a lot of people would look at it like, oh, he flipped the house on Suri and then zombie twist screwed him. However true that is, jury's still out. But I think someone in a new season is going to take that crown pretty convincingly. The fact that, like, Joseph and Brooklyn are, like, leading candidates is, I think, evidence of that. Best pre-juror, Mimi, for being there for, like, 60 days. Yeah, it's not Mimi, but she's, again, one of the better ones, probably. Worst juror is more interesting than best pre-juror. It's just hard because some of these early seasons, like the twins from BB5, like there's a lot of people who are just like, oh, they were bad. Gina Marie is in the mix. Is Jag technically a pre-juror? No. He was voted out pre-jury, but he's not a pre-juror. Pre-juror means you did not make the jury, I think, pretty obviously. Some say Jessica Graff as the best pre-juror. I don't think she's, like... she's probably top half of pre-jurors. But she's definitively really bad at Big Brother, right? Worst juror would be Big D if he wasn't runner-up. Him being runner-up has no effect on his ranking. Worst juror is Kelly. Yeah, there's a big case for Kelly. I was watching Morgan's stream where she was watching my stream. It was Streamception. And she was really upset where I ranked Kelly. And I was like, you had a front row seat, Morgan. What are you surprised about? And then she just kind of kept coming down to like, yeah, but she got 7th. I'm like, okay. Yeah, but she shouldn't have, She got Ramses out when she had a full power week. You got to understand, Ramses was about to take over the game. We were 1 week away from the Ramses renaissance. Yeah, Angela's also one, but, placement doesn't mean everything. I think it means very little in Big Brother. Like, very, very little. Because all the players that, like, go out pre-jury, like Nick Uhas, he could have been great. We just have no idea. There's so many players who look excellent for the first 3 weeks, and then you're like, oh, they're actually terrible at the game. Willie Hance, best pre-juror of all time. Look, I don't endorse physical violence, but being ejected by headbutting Chef Joe, I think, is the funniest ejection of all time. All the other ones are like shrouded in controversy or a knife to someone's throat. Headbutting Chef Joe specifically is the fun. And it wasn't even that much of a headbutt. That's the funniest ejection ever. Especially the fact that it's a Hance. Are you kidding me? BB10 Brian. It's like, who knows if Brian's any good? I don't know. Maybe. Kaser's definitively not. He is, still think, one of the better pre-jurors. Like, top 50%, which is insane because he's obviously a 4-time pre-juror. But, like, there's no case for him being the best. Are you kidding me? Tiffany Russo is a pre-juror who had a lot of potential. I did not get the impression that she was very good, but I don't know Tiffany Russo's game like the back of my hand. So what do we got? BB16 Amber. I feel like this is the challenge bias. I don't think there was enough on BB16. Dom from BB13. Did they ever do The Amazing Grace? I wonder why they haven't. Kaser's Just it's pretty impressive. I think the Clay answer pisses me off. Clay is I do not like that answer. He quit the game. You can't quit the game pre-jury and be the best of all time. Christian BB23. Yeah, I mean Christian's one who like maybe he could have been good in a non-cookout setting, but he was also backdoored by Derek X. You know, like he had no place on 23 for sure. But again, did he show enough? I think it's like genuinely impossible to make the case for Joseph Rodriguez over Brooklyn. And I think like you guys saw where I ranked Joseph. I think I'm higher on Joseph than most. It's just comparing him to Brooklyn, like what's the case? That he should have survived the week he was evicted? It's like then what? Like at no stage of the game did Joseph had more win equity than Brooklyn once Brooklyn was evicted. And it was still like only marginally more. How many players left to rank? 16, Bella. 16. I tried to do it like in segments of like seasons. Ethan released his full player rankings of all house gifts recently, and I missed Angela. And after he ranked you, I had to double check to realize I just missed when he ranked Angela far lower. I think like so many people get retroactively rewarded for placement. But you're saying he didn't do that. But I think so often it's like, okay, now we're going to rank all the people who were kind of in the jury. For me, I'm much more all over the place. I'm like, you got 4th place. I still think you're bad. You got 2nd place. I don't think you're good. I got like Big D and MJ, and they're way down there. I think pre-jury, you have to look at peak gameplay to judge. Yeah, I think it's like, what's your peak? How did you go out? How much of it was your fault? Was it circumstance? Did you get screwed? So anyways, let's look at one more post that I thought was somewhat interesting, and then we'll call it a day for the Reddit. Which AI Arena / Blockbuster winner would you change? How does it impact the season? There's so many massive ones. I mean, Tucker beating MJ, I think flips how BB26 turns out. I still think Chelsea wins, but it's a much harder path. It's a much different path. Who knows how it plays out, right? I think BB27, obviously, if Mickey doesn't win the Blockbuster, that means Mickey goes home, which means Riley stays, Morgan stays. That's a very different season. Kelly winning the first Blockbuster changes a lot of things because you still have Zay in there. It's just a different game, right? Generally, the earlier you change something, the more opportunity there is for stuff to change in the future. Tucker had, I think, the best peak in BB26 pre-jury. I think at the point at which you're probably saying was Tucker's peak, I was probably saying he was the worst strategic player in the history of the show. So, like, I think we're just on different wavelengths with this one. Tucker has impressive qualities. He's kind of like Quinn in that way, and Quinn's a much better player. It's just, like, he's got parts of him that make him, like, damn, Tucker, that's a really good thing you have. And then he has other parts of him that make him, like, worse than Big D. Worse than the worst player you can think of, which isn't even Big D. He caught a stray there. My bad, Big D. You're not that bad. Like, I think Tucker is similar to Riley for me. Obviously, very different people. But, like, Tucker had a lot of power, a lot of influence. I didn't think Tucker had a chance of winning the game the entire season. Riley had a lot of power and a lot of influence. Riley was never going to fucking win the season. They have different problems, but I kind of view them similarly. What do you think about him targeting the Pentagon? That was good. I think he made good nominations. Then he had this weird plan to take off Quinn and put up Cam for no reason. Like, he always just did too much. I don't know how else to say it. He should have been targeting Chelsea. I mean, he wanted Chelsea out in fairness, but he didn't push to make it happen. I saw someone mention Riley as best pre-juror. I'm trying to push back against the positioning brigade. I hate positioning. Positioning doesn't matter unless you had a role in your positioning. Otherwise, it's just circumstantial based on your season. He put up Chelsea after taking off Quinn. So it was Cam Brooklyn. I think you get the point. Get him. You get the idea. Lawan's the best pre-juror. Nice guy. I met Lawan. He had a few day run where he was low-key running shit. Yeah. I'll give you a few day run, perhaps. He probably did try to quit during that few day run, but, you know, it happens. It's a lot of days. A few days. It's hard to keep it all together. All right, let's do the rankings. Let's recap where we were at. We ended on the heartbreaker of America Lopez at number 17, which leaves us with 16 players. Let me do a little bit of stat watching here. So from BB23, we still have, I believe, 4 people remaining. From BB25, we have 4 people remaining. From BB26, we have 2 remaining. From BB27, we have 3. And that's the list, right? We have 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So it's pretty even split. Pretty even split. Anywho, let's get into it. Coming in at number 16. Number 16. I have the dog at the crib, Cam Sullivan Brown. Anonymous, thank you for the 5 gifted. Way to kick off our little ranking stream. Ava Pearl, one of the 3. Ava Pearl was ranked 50 placements ago, I think. Maybe not 50, but we haven't talked about Ava Pearl in a while. We got Cam, but thank you again, Anonymous. I'm going to keep it rolling, but know how much you are appreciated. Shout out to my dogs at the crib. Cam was a player who, if I had to rank Cam right after finale night, 5 minutes after finale night, I think I rank Cam a lot higher. Significantly higher. However, I have more information now. And very clearly, throughout Big Brother 26, Cam Sullivan Brown had 0 win equity. No one respected him strategically. Obviously, physically is why kind of people didn't respect him, which I thought was a little bit shrouded in toxic masculinity. But he was a GOAT who looks like the handsomest man you've ever seen, who's a huge athlete, all those things. So, while we viewed him from the outside as like, he's social, strategically he has a level head, he's maneuvering through the game, he might beat Chelsea in a bitter jury, might cut Chelsea and beat MJ, he loses unanimously to MJ, he loses unanimously to Chelsea, and he would have taken Chelsea to the end over anybody. Cam is a significantly better player in theory than in practice. I think a lot of people's perception of Cam as a player derive from Taryn's reads on Cam as a player, which I don't think Taryn's reads were unreasonable. He was just watching the feeds and reporting what he thought. But I think very clearly Cam, from viewers' perspectives, was a much better player than players thought, and honestly how reality was. Quinn was talking in jury how he was the only one who would even consider advocating for Cam because of how he's perceived, which then brings, some relevancy to the question of why wasn't Cam ever targeted? Was it his great social game and social maneuvering? Or was it he was just kind of a non-factor in the game and in the season? When the Pentagon was kind of running things, he was by far the least active member. It was almost a joke, where's Cam? We all thought Cam had a chance of being America's replacement nominee instead of Quinn. It was always going to be Quinn. Because Cam literally had no impact on the season for the first 5 weeks. And if that was okay, you're playing it slow, and then eventually you're going to make your move, or you're going to try to gather numbers, or you're waiting for that Vanessa spot, or Steve spot, where you cut Vanessa, cut Chelsea at the last second. There was none of that. That was never a thing that was happening in Cam's brain. Cam was a nice, chill, unproblematic dude who seems like a great time to hang out with, and was not a Big Brother player. He wasn't. And still, he's 16th out of the new era because he is extremely charming. I think strategically he is not self-destructive. He sometimes knows what's best for him and usually will not blow up his own game. But he really had no strategic force the entire season. Ever. And if he's not strategically doing anything, physically, I think he's underrated in the sense of he won a veto. Being, looking that physically fit does not make you a worse competitor if someone who looks less physically fit had the same comp performance. People shit on Cam a lot more than Blue from our season about their comp performance. And it's like they have the same resume. Like they're the same competitor. It's just, obviously we expect more out of Cam. So I'm not holding that against him. I vividly remember after Brooklyn was evicted, he laid out the plan on how him and Chelsea move forward, and it worked. I think that's unbelievably silly to look at Chelsea and Cam maneuvering post-Brooklyn vote and be like, Cam laid it all out. Like, maybe he had a good convo with Chelsea. Perhaps. Take into account, after that fact, Quinn wins an HOH, and then it's like Chelsea and MJ controlling the last 5 HOHs of the season. Like, Cam didn't have to do very much. And here's the thing. I would give him a lot more credit from America if you're saying, like, he had the best reads in the house, he could just never win comps. He was going to take Chelsea to the end. That was his plan. And that's not a plan that's like, oh, maybe the jury's going to be annoyed at Chelsea. I actually think I have a much better social game. I could win. That was a head-empty decision. Everyone knew Chelsea was winning in the end. That was well established by everyone in the house. Except maybe next to Chemo, but even still. He almost won out at 4 and cut MJ, and then he would have won final HOH and taken Chelsea. Like, what do you want? Like, it's I can't give him credit for, like, maneuvering through the end game when he was going to choose the person with the worst chances to for him to beat in the end. How do you win out at 4? You win final HOH, I guess. He can win versus Rubina. I do not think he wins against Rubina. From what Quinn has told me, everyone in the jury drastically overrated Rubina's gameplay and ability. Himself included. I mean, he gets Leah's vote. He could beat Rubina. It's possible. I think the thing is, if he cuts Chelsea, I think he loses Chelsea's vote. 100%. Did Ashley win out at 3? Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that is true. What rank was Rubina? You don't even want to know, Halabella. He can get MJ, Chelsea, Quinn, Leah. Those are the votes he would get. Chelsea is the very sketchy vote to me. If he has to cut Chelsea, no way. If Rubina cuts Chelsea, maybe. But I think it's very fair to say, and I hope you guys agree with me, if Cam cuts Chelsea, Chelsea's not voting for Cam. Like, I feel like every ounce of evidence that we have and just reading these people as being able to see them all season, I don't know. There's no way. Yeah, I was going to say Angela, I think, would be a more likely vote for him. The point is, he was never taking Rubina to the end. He didn't want to. So, while I want to give Cam credit, this fantasized version of Cam the player is a lot better than I think Cam as an actual player, but he's still good. He's a sociable guy who is not self-destructive, very charming. I think he could win a jury vote in other circumstances. Say Chelsea was hated, I think they'd be happy to give Cam money. But in general, I just don't think there's much to say about Cam. What's Cam's best move of the season? And I understand competitions play a large role, but, like, you gotta have something. Do you guys remember the week where he was almost evicted against Brooklyn and Chelsea? He didn't campaign. He forgot. He just didn't do it. And that's because that's who Cam is as a player. I think he peaked at, like, Final 5. When he was trying to keep Chemo and then begging MJ to keep him. And that's all good. Like, I prefer him doing that than not. It's just, that's it, you know? Last stream, y'all were saying, how has Cam not been ranked yet? Now you're like, Cam? Are you kidding me? So, that's where I've got Cam. I think it's fair. He was never going to be ranked above this, to be clear. Never. This was his peak. I was debating him lower. He's underrated by your rankings. I think that's an opinion that has aged worse every day since the season, since we've gotten more information. All right, number 15. Any theories? Who do we got? Number 15 is Derek. Derek, in my opinion, is just a pretty great, like, all-around player. Strategically, he has a good head and his shoulders. Socially, he's excellent. And physically, he's very competitive. We just didn't see him do very much on his season. He comes into BB23 barely having watched the show. He's very new to the game. He's kind of learning as he goes. Threat management is a huge issue for him. He's just so obviously social and charismatic and physical and hot. Yes, Bella. He's very good. Now, he does get 10th on his season, and I think a majority of the time he goes out in this spot. He goes out 11th, 10th, 9th, 8th. Now, the 1 out of 5 times he gets to the final 8, he could win the game. What does that pose? He's flexing on you. Would have been first out without the veto win. So Taylor would have been first out if not for this. Jag would have been 13th if not for this. Ashley would have been first out if not for the veto. You're right. It's just, I can't penalize someone for that super harshly. It just kind of is what it is. Big Brother's a random game, especially week 1. He wins HOH. He uses that HOH to backdoor Christian, which I think is fine. I want to give him some grace. Obviously, the cookout exists. It's hard for him to maneuver beyond that. He's kind of in a foursome with Claire, Hannah, and Tiffany. It was pretty clear to me that he was the first to go out of that foursome. But if they got deep enough in the game, he could comp out. I think in modern Big Brother, Derek is even better than he was during BB23. And BB23 was a very physical season. But I think BB25, like Derek X could play the Jag game a little bit better. But we didn't see it, and I don't have enough faith in Derek's game ability. He did not show enough like strategic flashes, I think, for me to feel comfortable having Derek ranked much higher than this. Like, keep in mind, he got 10th, and placement is not that important, but like we just didn't see him play Big Brother very long. He played for 7 weeks, and he just seems like a great guy who's really good at competitions. Like, comparing him to Claire, he basically is better at comps. That's the only reason. He's better socially, worse strategically, way better at comps. And as you guys are going to see throughout my rankings, being good at comps is really important. Being good at comps is a big deal. Sorry, I got a notification. So, when it comes to Derek X, ultimately, I think he would do well on a return. He would just be a target every season. He kind of reminds me of Christian Hubicki in that way, where it's like, how does Derek X lower his threat level? Just by being himself. He's almost like assuredly cooked. So, that's where I've got Derek. I don't think it's too controversial. He could be better than some players I have ranked above him, but I just can't in good faith. I have 7 weeks of data. He hasn't shown enough to be ranked over those people. He didn't use his BB Bucks as eviction week. It's bad too. You don't want to be overconfident, especially on Sarah Beth's HOH. He had previously nominated Sarah Beth, but he gave her $5,000. It was kind of a weird spot for Derek. But he obviously gets backdoored by Sarah Beth, which is like kind of unlucky. Sarah Beth got an HOH, but they would have been targeting him very soon anyways. So, coming in at number 14, any predictions? I think this one is going to help. I think this is going to make some of y'all feel better. I have Jag. Now, I've done a lot of reflecting on Jag's game. I used to have Jag ranked above me. I think it's a close argument. It really comes down to, like, do you care at, like, are comps all that matter? If they are, I think Jag deserves to be ranked above me. I think Jag, probably in the modern era, I think is a better bet to win any given season than me. Jag just has so much baggage. And the being voted out thing isn't even the biggest deal to me. The being voted out is like, it's bad, but a lot of great players were almost voted out really early and then saved due to nothing that they did. So just talking about Jag's game, he starts the game and he's like pretty promising. He's trying to build his majority alliance. He's super social. He ends up on the bottom immediately because the power structure collapses. and he really has no way of building himself back up. Like, he's just not able to do it. And he's given a lot of opportunities, like he's talking to Suri, he's talking to Izzy, but he's always trying to form even bigger groups. He's trying to save Riley, even though everyone knows Riley's going home. It gets him in hot water. He's the backup target the week that Heisem is backdoored. He wins the veto, saving himself. That's a trend. Week 4, Cameron's HOH. Jag knows he's the target, has no pitch for Cameron, is put on the block. He's being told over and over. Here's the thing. I want to give Jag a lot of grace for the early game in the same way I'll give a lot of the Big Brother 25 players grace. It's impossible to maneuver the early game at Big Brother 25 with Suri. With Suri, Jared, Izzy, the power structure was hell. I think Jag in a lot of seasons is doing very well at the start of the season. On this season, he was in a ton of trouble, and it's hard to get your way out of it when you have so many landmines everywhere. Because if you say the wrong thing to Jared, you're fucked. Say the wrong thing to Izzy, you're fucked. Say something to Suri about Jared, you're fucked. So I'll give him some grace there. But week 4, he gets blindsided, which is crazy considering Blue was on the block and Jared was Blue's showmance and Suri and Izzy were so close to Jared. There was no way he was going to stay. I don't know how he thought he was going to. So he gets blindsided. And then I think week 5 is definitively his worst week of gameplay ever. Week 5, Jared wins HOH. Cam and Red are nominees. Cam's the target. It comes time for a replacement nominee. Jag is on the block again, and he again is about to be blindsided 10-0 for the second week in a row. He just doesn't have, like, he's like too gullible, too nice of a guy. He just didn't believe it was him. He believed what everyone was telling him. I was lying to him throughout the entire week. He didn't know. America the whole time is telling him the truth about his position. He's not acknowledging it. His first 5 weeks of gameplay are genuinely that of a player who'd be ranked in the bottom 20. Bottom 30, maybe, because he's just social and physical. For those two, like, it's just really bad. And, like, him being evicted week 4 is his fault. Cameron wanted to put up Izzy. If Jag just gave him anything, it would have been huge. Week 5, he would have stayed a myriad of ways. Ends up being saved at the last minute due to nothing he did. Then his game turns around. Week 6, it's the Izzy flip. He eventually decides to flip kind of on his own, right? And then obviously he's not able to do it himself. But once I bring him in, he's down to do it, right? He's very sketched out about the whole thing. He's talking about, like, changing the vote counts and let's make it 5-4 or 6-3 so we could hide and pretend 7 Deadly Sins is still real. And when Matt and I are lied to about Jag by Jared, we all believe him because Jag routing out the plan is so in character for him. That was just the reputation he had. After week 5, Jag is top 3. That's an indefensible opinion. You do not know what Big Brother is. And then following that, Jag is safe week 7 due to Matt. Genuinely. Like, Jag was a backup target, but Matt talked him off. Credit to Matt for that one. Double eviction. He's Mimi's target. I clutch out the win for him. Then we have Zombie Week. He does a great job, I think, during Zombie Week, ingratiating with Cameron. Like, he does a really good job. I think, at the end of the day, Cameron always trusted Matt more than Jag, but Jag was doing much more work than Matt the entire season. Like, Matt is better. Matt is more tactful. Matt had less enemies. Matt was in less danger. Matt relied on twists less. But Jag was always doing more. Jag was the more active member of the duo, and I stand by this. Without Jag, Matt doesn't get anything done. I don't know if Matt ever gets evicted, right? Like, Matt still makes the endgame probably, but none of Matt's goals would be accomplished without Jag playing his ass off. You know what I mean? So give him credit for that. After Cameron's HOH, he wins out, essentially. He ropes in Matt, ropes in Bowie, forms the Mafia, and just targets people in order of, their physical ability. Blue first, she wins the veto, then it's me, then Blue, then America. The endgame is pretty straightforward. Credit in the endgame, he chooses to evict Suri, which he didn't convince Matt to evict Suri. That's not a correct narrative. Matt didn't have the votes. But he successfully won Bowie Jane over, so Bowie Jane was Jag's number instead of Matt's. That was hugely valuable. That allowed him to get rid of Suri when he had the opportunity. He obviously makes the decision at the Final 4 and the Final 3 to keep Matt in the game, even though he believes, and this is, I think, the sticking point for me, he believes that Matt is going to beat him in the final two. That's rough for me. And it's just like, if Jag thought he would beat Matt, that changes a lot. But the fact that Jag thought Matt was going to beat him and then took him, and I understand why. Not everything's about the game. Jag's expressed it a million times. He's talked in it a million times, and that's fine. But we're doing a player ranking, of course. And, of course, when he's the invisible HOH, he tells everyone, tries to nominate Bowie as a pawn. That's a disaster. His jury management, I think, is pretty bad. No one was happy to vote for Jag, really. We liked the guy. I was down. But he kind of had everyone leave the house annoyed with him because he was just super... The word we used was, like, cowardly, of, like, bro, you got us. You don't have to keep lying on the way out. Like, we know what happened. Granted, in his goodbye messages, he does a better job, obviously, than Matt. But in general, he does claim credit at that point, but I guess his logic was he didn't want to ever tell you were the target because then you would start scrambling, even though everyone knew who the target was every week. I think week 9's, final 9's probably his best week, I would agree. The rest of that's just, him winning out. So, at the end of the day, Jag is like a guy who's very good socially. The people who didn't like him in the house, I think that's a them problem. He was just a great, likable guy who's super funny. Strategically, I think he's underrated. I think he's way too loyal, way too gullible, but he does have a good mind for the game. He understands who should be targeted next. He knew it was important to keep me in as a shield until it was time for me to go. Same with Blue, same with Cameron. Like, he had a good, his final 5 mapped out of Suri, Felicia, Jag, Matt, Bowie. He had that down from the final 10. And that was the perfect final 5 for him. And the whole time he's working on Bowie to pull her, into him in the next final, for the final 5, so he has the numbers on Matt. But it's all kind of like crescendoed by the fact that he was going to take Matt to the end and lose. So it's just kind of tough. But he's a great competitor. I think he's a top 5 competitor in BB history. I think he's underrated there. Even though he didn't have the stiffest competition, he did have a lot of stiff competition for a while, competing against Cameron, competing against Jared, competing against Heisem. Myself, Blue, and America were, like, fine. Matt was good at a lot of things. He beat Matt in comps. Bowie was competent. He was beating her. It was, I think, stronger competition than some people would say. But he's not on the level of, like, Michael. He's not there. So Jag being one of the best competitors in Big Brother history, socially, I think being very good, and strategically being a mixed-ass bag with a weird game, I think 14's about right. I do think he is incredibly close to me, though. I think it's interchangeable. It's really stylistic. While I think competitions are extremely important in modern Big Brother to the point where, like, if that's your case for Jag being ranked higher than me, I get it. I just think Jag made so many more mistakes, and he just got away with it, and it didn't matter. Whereas I think I got the rough end of a lot of sticks in the Big Brother house. I'll talk about my game. Not going to dwell on it too long. We've obviously talked about it. Week 1, I have, like, one of the worst disadvantages you can imagine. I'm on the block immediately, and I'm isolated from the house for about an hour. I think some of my best gameplay is week 1, just fucking not getting evicted. I think if you simulate that 100 times, I might get evicted 80 of them. Like, that was a tough spot. And then I think basically for the first 3 weeks, I'm playing close to perfectly. Obviously, you're navigating Suri's hellish power structure. None of us know about Suri and Jared. And it's just really hard, but I'm balancing it really well. And then I think this is where things start to turn a little bit. Week 4, I mentioned to Izzy that at the Final 4, I want to work with her instead of Suri and Jared. Meaning, once we get to Final 4, maybe I said 5. I think it was 4. Once we get there, me and Izzy are going to be in the Final 2. And I like that because both of us have a chance of beating Suri and Jared. Izzy takes that information, goes to Suri, and says, Cory wants you out at Final 7. That's kind of crazy. Like, I don't think that's really my fault. Granted, even if that didn't happen, it would have deteriorated because of me and America and Jared's feelings on all of that. and generally just how America was playing. Like, it was not helping my position with them. However, I stayed in this, like, area where I wasn't doing great, but I wasn't doing terribly. I was never a target, no matter who won any HOH. They always talked about targeting me at Final 8, Final 9, Final 7, at the Final 13. So I was doing fine, even if, like, I was slipping from the second best position in the house to, like, the 7th best position. I wasn't in danger. Then, of course, the Izzy flip happens. There's a lot of credit to go around. The thing I'll say confidently about that is I don't think anyone else can make that move happen. I think if Jag puts his full force, it doesn't happen. If America puts his full force, it doesn't happen. If Bowie puts her full force, it doesn't happen. If Mimi, I think I'm the only one who could actually do it. I don't know if that's just game ability or if it's my position. I think it's a combination of the two. But I think that is probably the crowning achievement. I think it was very obviously a good move. I think the way you look at it is, how did people think about the move in the moment? People meaning you, the viewers, people meaning Taryn, people meaning the other people in the house. Like, everyone at the time thought it was a great move. In retrospect, I didn't win the game, so maybe the other path would have been better, right? Things take an ugly turn, obviously with, well, first of all, I get nominated the next week. I think I do a good job getting off the block. Convince Jag to take me off. Then it's zombie week, which I win the double, target Jared. That was good, obviously. Then the double happened, or the zombie week happens, and that's just brutal for me. Didn't play it well, but I don't think there's a way to play that well. The issue of my complacency, I think, is way lesser than the issue of Jared's coming back in the house, who's going to target me, or Cameron, who some people thought would work with me. It was very clear on a personal level that guy would never work with me ever again. And then I'm almost backdoored on Cameron's week. I'm saved due to nothing that I did. I was totally unaware it was happening. I was scared, but I didn't think I was getting backdoored. Jag saves me there. Final 9, Cameron's just backdoored. That was always going to happen. And then Final 8, I'm not the initial target, but there's 2 vetoes, and Blue wins the second crapshoot veto, and that's my game. I think ultimately I have one massive flaw as a player. And I think this is the flaw that you could rank me lower than Derek X, lower than Cam if you want, right? I have way too high of a threat level for how good I am at competitions. It's a brutal combination. You can't be perceived as a jury threat and perceived as doing really well strategically and also be terrible at competitions. And I wasn't terrible. I could beat a lot of people, but I can't beat the people who are good at them. Could I beat Blue head-to-head? Yes, I did several times. Could she beat me head-to-head? Yes, she could several times. Could either of us beat Jag head-to-head? No. And there's always going to be someone like that. There's always going to be a Jag. I mean, we got rid of Riley, we got rid of Heisen, we got rid of Cameron twice, we got rid of Jared. Got rid of Red, if you want to count him in. Jag is still there. And we got rid of Jag. So it's just kind of a tough thing. Probably do better with the comps you've seen in the last 2 seasons. Maybe, but the point is, I think a lot of times I'm going to have to win out from the Final 5, Final 4. Like, I'm not going to have to win out from the Final 9 a lot of times. But I'm going to have to win out at a certain point, and it's just not very reliable. I think strategically I'm a very strong player. I don't think that's too up for debate. Like, I just have known the game a lot more than... I know the game a lot more than most people, and I'm not insane. So I think strategically I'm one of the better players. Socially is one of those where I think that's where it changes how you're going to rank me. I think socially I was doing pretty well. I clearly am a jury threat. I beat probably everyone. Give or take Matt, Suri, Jag, but I'm never going to end up in the final 2 with any of them. I was clearly in that tier of people who would get jury votes. But I had a lot of enemies, and this is where it comes down to how much do you blame me for Felicia really not fucking with me, Blue really not liking me, Cameron turning on me for those reasons, Matt having his problems. It's kind of similar to America minus the misogyny aspect of it. Like, I'm a dude. I think we understand that. So if you think it's like my social game that like pushed away Blue and Felicia, it's fair enough. I think they all liked me and would have voted for me in the end, or would have been willing to vote for me in the end, considering who I'm sitting next to. But it was a problem for me. I didn't have I'm certainly not like a great social player. I do not have any gravity. I'm either an average social player or slightly above average. Nothing better than that. Having not watched the season, did you know about the threat level problem? Yes. It became an inside joke in the house that I was like the strategist of the season. And there was nothing I could do about it. I was just at the mercy of Jag, so I had to just play into it. Oddly enough, I feel like you were affected by misogyny in a roundabout way throughout the season. Maybe by like Jared and Matt, but I'm not gonna claim I'm too big of a victim of misogyny. I don't think that's super appropriate. Do you think keeping Cam at Final 9 is better for your game? It's terrible, terrible move for my game. If we flip to keep him, he still targets me the next week because he personally just despised me. And I hated him, so it's kind of, what are you going to do? Suri was calling you a genius, which didn't help, and I voted out her son and Blue's showmance. I was at a point in the game where I flip on Suri and Jared, which is the right move, and in doing so, I lose Suri forever, I lose Blue forever. Matt and Jag gain Blue forever. The game just ends. There's no path forward. The path forward is working with Mimi, and then none of us win any comps anyways. So none of it really matters. But in comparing me to Jag, I got like 1053. Comparing me to Jag, Jag's way better at competitions. I think he's a little better socially. And then strategically, I think I'm way better. And it just kind of depends on how you measure that. Obviously, I was evicted once. He was evicted once. I played a much better first half. Second half, he, I guess, played better by winning all the comps. So, I got third. 1053 was America. 1111 was me. 830 was Jag. You are correct. You are correct. You're correct. Sorry, 1053 is just like my go-to comics time. Why do I keep like... There you go. That's better. So that's me at number 13. I don't have too much more to say. I think me versus Jag, it's dealer's choice. In modern Big Brother, with the blockbuster, give me Jag. I'll say that much. I'll say that much. All right, number 12. Any theories? Number 12. I have Michael Brunner. I was close to ranking me and Jag above Michael. Michael was a very, 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 very flawed player with a couple of really good strengths. Let's talk about the first strength. In my opinion, Michael is the best competitor in Big Brother history. I think, personally, that Heisem would beat him and stuff, but considering everything, what actually happened, the types of comp he won, the competition he was up against, I think Michael is the best competitor ever. That's what I think. Now, there are some, problems. He wins these powers and then does not do a good job handling that power. His first HOH, I think he targets Daniel. All good. Cool target. No problems with that. Now we're like week 9, week 8. Like, we're at the final, 9 and 8. Like, we're deep in the game when he gets these next two HOHs. He targets Jasmine during Direfest, which, remind me, who was in his pod? It was like him, Taylor, Brittany, Monty, and Jasmine or something. He needs to target Monty. He needs to. But I think that's Monty, Jasmine, Taylor, Brittany, yeah. He needs to target Monty. That's the obvious move. Now, I understand him not doing it. I do. It's like, are you going to get Taylor to vote against him yet? You could probably get Brittany to do it. Jasmine probably would be down, but you can't keep Jasmine off the block. It's kind of a tough spot. His next HOH is pretty unexcusable. I think he puts up like Terrence and Alyssa targeting Terrence instead of Monty. Michael was in I need to win out territory for so long in the season. He was firmly going to be backdoored by Kyle until he wins that veto saving himself. Week 1, he's going to be voted out if he doesn't save himself. That's just kind of the story of Michael's game. And that's part of his legend. Like, he had to win so many comps, and he won all of them. But he wins this HOH at Final 8, or Final 7, I believe. And at that stage, there's no excuse. You have to put up Turner. You have to put up Monty. You have to make something happen, because he has to know he's not going to social strategy his way to the end at that point. The jury's out on Michael. We know where he's at. But he didn't see it. He tried to make the gentleman's agreement with Turner and Monty, and that obviously failed when Turner won HOH, Monty won the veto, and pushed him on the block. Michael just had too many opportunities to make things happen, and he did it. Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate you. 7 months. I got to send you a reminder every month for that Prime. But I appreciate you. Where does Discord Little Diggy Vert rank on his list? Yeah, so I've seen Little Diggy Vert play a Discord Survivor in some orgs. He is a bit of a Goo Boy merchant. He relies on Goo Boy to win some challenges. That tanks him, but all things considered, A tier player. So Michael's weird. The credit I'll give him, socially, people liked him. He was kind of passive strategically, which is weird for like the superfan archetype, but he was pretty passive, at least compared to players we'll talk about in the future. Socially, he was going to win a jury vote against anybody. And that's a huge deal. If you're going to be like the consensus house target for a lot of weeks, you better be able to win the jury vote at the end, and he would have won basically unanimously against anybody. And while he's evicted, I don't think his pitch was ever going to work. I like the effort. I think that speaks to, in future seasons, he's always going to fight till his last breath. If he was nominated post-veto and it wasn't a double eviction, he had time to campaign, I think he could campaign pretty well. But he was pretty convincingly outplayed by Kyle, and then the whole Kyle thing with him is another thing where I don't even know, like, he used it, and it did help him how he used it, but it's weird, and I think it would have hurt his jury prospects. Like, I don't know what to do with that. Really, the problem is he won so many competitions and was never able to get into a better position, or at the very least, eliminate people who would prevent him from winning out in the future. It was a very obvious choices he had to make, and he just made the wrong ones. So, that's Michael. I'd love to see him play again. I just like gamers. Gamers willing to play. I'd like him to be a bit more active strategically, a bit more risk-taking strategically, but he got pretty close to winning. If he wins that veto, I think it's hard to imagine how he doesn't win out. And best competitor ever, that gives you a lot of wiggle room. A lot of leeway. You can make a lot of mistakes when you're the best competitor in the show's history. So, that's the Michael Bruner game. Coming in at number 11, the last person to miss out on the final 10. Oof, this is going to be brutal for whoever it is. Coming in at number 11, Monty. It's Monty. I don't know what the fuck to do with Monty. He's in the majority the entire season. That's good. He's obviously with all the menaces and Pose Pack and all that shit. And then the leftovers forums, and he's in that. He's always got powerful allies. Turner's always with him. Turner's winning a ton of HOHs. He's always with Kyle. Kyle's doing very well. Working with Taylor. Taylor becomes a very important figure in the house. It's kind of remarkable how he's not a target earlier. Because he wins a lot of comps, but he wins them very late, and he's just not targeted before then, and it's kind of baffling to me, considering how good of a competitor he is. Socially, he's pretty solid. Strategically, his head is there. And the other thing I'll give Monty is, like, his decision to take Taylor in the final two was not a emotional decision. He was not choosing to lose the game. He thought he was making the winning move, cutting his best friend. Was he closer to Taylor at that point? Probably. But he thought he would have a much easier shot beating Taylor than he would beating Turner. Terrible read. I think it's a somewhat understandable read based on how Taylor was perceived that season. How she was treated that season. I don't think it's a crazy conclusion to come to. But better than MJ, better than Jag. I think he thought he would beat Taylor more convincingly than he would beat Turner. He didn't purposefully choose to lose the game. Give him a lot of credit for the Michael boot. It's him and Taylor. Taylor convinced him. He convinced Turner. So, give him a lot of credit for that. It doesn't happen if he's not behind it. Give him credit for surviving Michael's previous HOHs. The final 7 and the final 9. Or I guess final 10, final 9. Whatever. Direfest. It's hard because how much of it was Monty's active work, but he was just working with these people the entire season, and there was some connection there. Or he was connected enough to Taylor, connected enough to other people where Michael did not feel comfortable pulling the trigger. And then when it was Monty's turn to pull the trigger, he did. And I think he has a chance of winning a jury vote. He wasn't despised by the jury by any means. I think Taylor being against him, that's a tough out. Like, Taylor's good. And it's his choice to take Taylor, but, you know, he had a bad read. So I've got Monty at number 11. And let's just jump into number 10. Let's stick with BB24. I have Taylor at 10. Taylor is one of the hardest players to rank. You could make a case Monty's better than Taylor. I just think it's... The thing with Taylor's game is, like, Taylor was at such a disadvantage at the start of the game due to reasons that she had nothing to do with. It was not her fault. Obviously, people just despised her. There was a lot of internalized misogyny, internalized racism. You could just see it bleeding out of these other house guests. Daniel, Nicole, you know. But when you look at her actual game, she's like the house pawn the entire season. She's always on the block. She's kind of getting saved against her own will at times. When she wins her first 8, because she wins 2 HOHs, one of them's Final 4, which, you know, doesn't mean too much. Her one HOH that we saw her actually have power, it was horrible. Like had potential to be one of the worst HOHs we've ever seen. She gets steered into the better direction at the last minute, but it was a really bad time. And I think that's kind of the big issue with Taylor as a player is, like, strategically, I just don't think there's a ton there. You know what I mean? I think coming back a second time she would do a lot better. But strategically, she did not prove herself to be very good at the game. Socially, I think she was pretty good. Obviously, she had a lot of people hating her. What are you going to do? I'm not penalizing her harshly for that. In the end game, I think she plays very well. She sets herself up in a spot where she's making the final 3 almost assuredly from, like, the final 5 in, even though she should be a bigger threat than Brittany and Alyssa. That was very good. Competitions, she's very competent. She had a really tough cast to go against. She's competing against Kyle, Monty, Michael, Turner, every single challenge. And she still put up some wins. I think on another season, she probably wins more. Yeah, I don't think she ever won a veto. I don't think Turner would have taken her to the final 2. But besides that, yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, I guess I meant, like, from the final 5 to 3. She was kind of chilling. How'd she lose Brittany's vote at 5? That was odd, too. I just think Taylor's a player where, like, the journey was incredible. The social game, I think, would be solid on most seasons. It'd be very good. Strategically is a huge question mark. And I think the fact that she was on the bottom meant she was never really in a power position to make decisions. And I think that bodes well for Taylor. I think it's better for Taylor to be, like, at the middle, or in the middle, at the bottom for most of the season than sneak her way to a win. I don't think Taylor can run a season. I don't think that's her game. And I think that just inherently leaves a lot to chance. Same with Ashley. And I think the comparison between them is a little bit tired, but, like, I don't think either of them are capable of, like, dictating house decisions. But they are pretty good in the margins. And when you're good in the margins and you're likable socially, you got good jury management, you can win the game. So that's what I got with Taylor. I don't know if this is a hot take. I feel like it feels about right to me. I trust everyone above this to play better than Taylor, or at least have a better shot of winning than Taylor. You need to read Taryn's book. He gives Taylor her flowers. Well, we all know where Taryn stands on Taylor. You're hearing my opinions, not Taryn's. Coming in at number 9. I think this is where things are going to get controversial. I think we've reached a boiling point where things are going to get controversial. I have Ashley at number 9. I'm going to let it simmer for a second. I'm going to let it simmer. And I'm going to rip off the Band-Aid right now. I'm going to rip it off, okay? Is everyone ready? Is everyone ready? 8, 7. I have the 27 trio at 9, 8, 7. I think it's the right opinion. Now let me get to it. Your Matt take is crazy. My Matt take shows my objectivity. And as flawed as Matt is, these players are, I think, more flawed. Matt is a more flawed person than all these three. I'll give you that. But as a player, Matt's, I think, clears these guys. Anyways, we're not talking about Matt. Let's talk about Ashley first. Let's talk about Ashley. Because I want to talk about these three in the context of each other. Because obviously they're all in the same season. I think they were consensus the top three of the season. And how are you going to rank it? Ashley's the winner of the season. What did Ashley do great? Her jury management was excellent. I think people overuse jury management as a term. However, she actually had excellent jury management. By the way, America agreed with this list before the stream. Just to be clear, she's cosplaying as one of you, but she's one of me. Let's talk about Ashley. Jury management was great. Every time people were being evicted, she was the one being their buddy as they left the house. They all left the house feeling great about Ashley and rooting for Ashley. Not that they would have voted her to win against anybody, but she started at a very low place with them and ended on a high. That's good. She has good self-preservation. During Lauren's HOH early in the game, she should have gone on the block. Her and her allies pitched their asses off to get her off the block, Adrian on. Ashley very likely gets evicted there. Week 1, Ashley almost gets evicted, saved herself with the veto. It happens. I'm not holding that against her too bad. When she's up against Will, she should go home. I don't think it's a huge deal for Morgan or Vince who they pick. But Ashley was initially the target. She campaigned. Will did not. She stayed. Good work. I love when people campaign. And finally, she correctly identified that Morgan was the alpha threat and that she stood a shot against Vince in the final 2, won final 3 HOH, and cut Morgan, winning the game. Okay. That's all the good. Now, I guess here's the bad for me. I think in regards to comps, Ashley's really bad. Significantly worse than anyone left on this list except for Suri. She ends up winning 2 competitions. When you're in the end game and you're playing so many comps, it's kind of crazy she only got this many, and her competition, in my opinion, wasn't as steep. She wins part 2 of the final HOH due to the goofiest shit of all time. Rachel's weird because you have to also take into account Rachel's other stuff. Like, if you're counting Rachel now, Ashley's probably on par with her as a competitor. But anyways. Part 2, she has no right in winning. She would never, like, any other part 2, she loses. But the instructions are bizarre. Vince panics. Ashley wins. And then she crushes the quiz. So I think in mental comp, she has as good a shot as anybody. She's a very smart person, obviously. But I do think socially, I think this is my biggest difference with people in regards to Ashley's game. People who are higher on Ashley's game than I am. I don't think she was very good socially. I think she was very, like, off-putting to a lot of people. Some of it is them having a vendetta. I don't blame her for Vince hating her. That had nothing to do with Ashley. Like, I don't blame her for that. But I do not... Okay, let's... We're going to have this conversation again. I don't believe the Elle Woods thing. I believe in it as, like, an awesome framing mechanism for a speech for the final 2. I do not believe it as this is how she's conducting herself the entire season intentionally to build a persona. I don't believe it. And I think if more people do believe it, that might frame your opinions. Dad said we need to sit down, basically. So I think socially, on a majority of seasons, she's below average. She shined in the last few weeks, but she would just, and this is why I think she was really fun, and I was rooting for her, and she was good on feeds, she would just say some crazy out-of-pocket shit sometimes. And she'd get people pissed off at her. And she was never targeted because she was not a threat. And she was supposed to be cut at Final 3, and 80 to 90% of other seasons she is cut at Final 3. Now, she put herself in a position to have that 20% chance to win. So she, deserves credit for that and should get credit. I think strategically is by far her strongest asset in the game. By far. I think she is a stronger strategic player than Rachel and Morgan. She has a better read on the house. She knows where to go, who to target, who's a threat, who's an ally. She's good with that. She has her blind spots. Everyone does. She thought Zach was a super close ally of hers. So sometimes you just have off reads. But in general, strategically, she was the best of the three. People call her a social winner. I've talked about that. I think that's misogynistic. I think people see a woman who played a low-key game win and just call her social. I think she was a strategic player who kind of won in spite of her social game. And the reason I have her ranked below Morgan specifically is because while I think Ashley's better strategically, I think socially they're pretty close, and comp-wise, Morgan blows Ashley out of the water, and I think that's a more reliable way to win Big Brother these days. I think Ashley's formula works less often than Morgan's formula. Now let me talk about Morgan, and we're going to compare it to Ashley. Morgan's third place. Looks like she was going to win the season the entire time, and a lot of that was because of competitions, of course. But let's talk about the parts that were not competitions. I think Morgan plays a really good game for the first 5 weeks. It's messy, it's sloppy, her stock watch score is jumping up and down. But at the end of the day, she was incredibly active the entire season, putting herself in a ton of conversations, having a ton of incredibly important relationships, and she's just doing okay. She is a big part of the reason why Jimmy was backdoored. I think that was a bad move, a categorically bad move. She says it was between, Mickey was only going to put up either Vince or Jimmy, in which case, obviously, it makes sense to, put Jimmy up. By my recollection, my feeling on it is there were other options. Whether it was her convincing Mickey or her and Rachel convincing Mickey or throwing at, I do not think that was the binary choice that was on the table. She was there. I'm sure, I trust her. It's just, from our perspective, that's not what I saw. So that's a bad play. Outside of that, she's just doing pretty well. She's really well connected. She's flopping in competitions, which ends up being a great thing for her. Because when she very narrowly gets evicted, I think week 6, I believe. It's the Riley boot. She gets pretty lucky there, but she does a good job campaigning that week when she's on the block. She gets put up by Rachel, immediately starts being Rachel's best friend, gets that side of the house to vote with her. Clearly, Vince was never going to vote to evict her. We had that read way off. I think she's a little lucky to get Ava to keep her, but, Big Brother's a game of luck sometimes. And then from that point on, she doesn't lose a competition, basically. She's immune every round until the final 3, basically. Now, how does Morgan stack up against the other best competitors in BB history? I don't think she's, top 3, but her record speaks for itself. 5 vetoes, 2 HOHs. She was always competing against Vince, always competing against Keanu, always competing against Kelly and Lauren. It's a pretty good field. So I think it's pretty impressive, the comp she's winning. I don't think, any of the people I listed were as good as, a Jag, or a Tucker, or a Heisem, or Michael, or anything like that, but she's good. She's a very, very good competitor who could reliably win out in the end. Now, I think the biggest flaw with Morgan's game is, socially, she wasn't very well spread out when it came to the end game. She didn't have that many great connections. I think she lucks out a bit with Rachel being White Locusted. I think that was good for Morgan's game. It broke down the dynamics a lot in her favor. She was really over-relying on, her Vince connection. That was just huge for her. And then her Ashley connection, until Ashley started targeting her but couldn't do anything. Strategically, she's super active and a little bit all over the place. She generally gets what she wants done. She was able to convince Vince to do her bidding, but the methodology was really crazy, and it didn't feel very intentional sometimes. She was intentionally getting what she wanted done, but, she said she wishes she mentioned it in the DR. I wish she had more camera talks, because the DR wouldn't show shit. But strategically, She sometimes knew the best thing to do, but would always push hard for whatever she wanted, which I'll credit her for. Essentially, Ashley, I think, is better strategically, slightly better socially, but it's very close. Morgan is not as good strategically, but way more active strategically, and way better at comps. For me, it's very close. I think Morgan's the better player. I think if we do BB27 20 times, Morgan wins 10 of them, Ashley wins 3 of them. Then the rest of them go to other people. Maybe Morgan winning 10 is too much. Morgan wins like 6. You know, I think she was the person who would win BB27 the most times if they do the season over and over. Her convincing Vince to put up Lauren will forever annoy me. I mean, look, that was probably her best move of the game, even if it didn't pan out. You know what I mean? And then I have Rachel, who, I mean, talk about hard to rank. This trio is unbelievable. Like, how do you rank them? Like, Rachel goes out the earliest, of course, but she's not evicted. She's nominated 0 times. Everything that she wanted to happen during the season happened. She wanted Zay out. Zay left. She wanted to keep Amy, so she missed there. She wanted to keep Jimmy. She missed there. A couple bad weeks. Her getting Riley out flips the entire complexion of the season. Every week we thought Rachel was going to go on the block every time Vince's HOH, Keanu's HOH. It always looks like she's getting evicted immediately, and she survives. Because she's very forceful, she's somewhat domineering, she gets what she wants. It's Rachel fucking Riley. Despite being a former winner, having that threat level, she does well. Of course, being a returning player is an advantage. It's always been an advantage. I'm not going to pretend like it's not to suit my argument. However, I think Rachel, as a returning player, got the least advantages I've ever seen. She got week 1 immunity, which is a big deal, but it's not the biggest deal. And no one knew who she was. Which, if you knew who Rachel was, you'd feel a lot better about her, because she's just kind of a loyal player who wins comps and gets in fights. Her, strategic queen era never existed until this season. So everyone thinks she's this big, bad schemer, when in reality, she's just Rachel. And despite that, she gets very well connected with Morgan, with Mickey. Has a final 2 with Ava, wasn't too important. She's in the heavy hitters with all those big players. She's obviously tight with Ashley, tight with Will. Her and Keanu have their thing going on. I believe, from the bottom of my heart, that Keanu never would have targeted Rachel. There's a lot of evidence to say he would have, but there was always evidence that said he would have targeted her, and then he didn't. I think they would have just not targeted each other and continued to be, against each other the whole season. And if she survives White Locust, look, if Vince is gone White Locust, if Morgan's gone, I think Rachel wins the season. Or has a very good shot at winning the season. I could already anticipate Morgan's pushback and, maybe other people from BB27 who would be well, we were just keeping her around and then we were going to evict her. It's maybe. I don't think that was Ashley's plan. I don't think that was Will's plan. You let someone like Rachel get a little too far, things could flip on you very quickly. One of these big comp threats get White Locusted. Keanu is still there to work with Rachel. I'm just saying, it was not a foregone conclusion that she gets evicted whenever they wanted. It's just not. And I'm not going to penalize her for being evicted when she wasn't. I'm not going to penalize her for potentially being evicted the next week. This is the problem with the twist. We never got to see it play out. Ashley said her plan was to go for Rachel in the double, so final 6? Okay. If Rachel's in the final 6, good luck. Yeah, Keanu wanted Rachel out all the time as long as he didn't do it. Yeah. And he was likely to win a lot of comps in the end, so. Keeping vets is playing with fire, you just don't do it. Targeting them is playing with hotter fire. It's just hard. There's not much to do. The best thing you can do is, be their number 1 guy and make a decisive move at some point. That's what I tried to do, but I was not able to. Snowman Sports. The Raid. What's going on? Do you guys talk sports in Snowman Sports? Because I'm a big sports guy. If you guys want me to talk sports. It sounds like I'm being ironic. Sports gambling. Oh, perfect. Did you guys hear about my first time gambling in Vegas, losing Bears money line and Bills money line? the same day. I think it was Saturday, Sunday, right? Not good. It was not a good weekend for me. I'm done gambling. That's Cory's shit. I'm not a sports gambler. I don't gamble sports, but I love sports. We're also on Bills, Broncos, and Bears, Rams. I think Rams was the sharper side of that bet. Bills, Broncos, I think I got fucking robbed. Ride Cam Spencer, shut up. Okay. My parlay of the day, yeah. My parlay of the day is Cardinals not hiring a coach and Browns hiring the worst coach you've ever seen. Didn't they got Todd Monken, right? Yeah, they're. You've distracted me, sports. We're doing something here. I have Rachel Riley at number 7. These 3 are incredibly tough to rank. This guy was not. Matt Klotz. I think we've gotten to a stage in Big Brother discourse where Matt Klotz, unfortunately, is underrated. And I was talking to America about it. She agreed. It's just like, y'all don't understand how good he was. And there's huge flaws with his game, and I think those flaws would not prevent him from winning a lot of seasons. So let's talk about it. I think socially, Matt is probably the best player left. It's him, Tiffany, Suri. Probably Suri and then Matt. Matt was beloved by everyone in the house. He sucks outside of the house. And he sucked inside the house behind my back. But he was everyone's favorite person. We trusted Matt more than Jag. We liked Jag more, but we trusted Matt because he just gave off trustworthy. He is not great at competitions, but there's some competitions he automatically wins. Like, he wins by default, essentially, by being such a physical specimen. He was never in danger the entirety of the 100-day season. Not once was he in danger. He's playing the middle successfully for the first half of the game, plays the middle successfully for the second half of the game, the entire time having win equity. Now, him losing to Jag in the final 2 sucks. It's a bad thing for Matt. However, he does beat everyone else in the final 2, which is why, like, his terrible jury management, if he was up against Bowie, he beats Bowie. If he was up against Felicia, he beats Felicia. If he was up against Suri, he would have beaten Suri unless the speeches changed it. If he's up against America, Blue, he beats them, beats Cameron, beats me, probably. Almost assuredly beats me. Hot white guy privilege. There's a lot of hot white guys on Big Brother, you know. That's a part of it, for sure. He gets more grace. How does he beat Suri? I would have voted for Matt if I didn't get to see final speeches, for sure. I mean, I thought Matt was the best player in the house. Like, Matt easily gets Cameron. Well, Cameron's actually a tough one. Jag and Bowie are locks, of course. I think he probably gets Cameron, but it's up in the air. I think he gets me in America, though. That's the other thing. I think he does. Felicia, it depends. I think Felicia might vote Matt over Suri, too. Like, he has a good shot at beating her, is the point. He always was on the right side of everything. Strategically, he generally knew what to do. He was on the right side of wanting to get Cameron out when Jag was wavering. He had Blue as a tight ally. He was the one who was, like, more... Okay. Jag was more forceful and more active. Matt was always the one who had the right opinion, if that makes sense. He beats both of us easily, 100%. Yeah. I do need to see him face some strategic adversity at some point. That's the thing with Matt. He avoids strategic adversity like the plague. And that is by design. And that's a flaw of his. Let's talk about the flaws, because there's a couple. Matt is not active enough strategically. Baseline. He also does not know how to own his game. He does not know how to articulate his game. That's a problem. He would have beaten everyone else regardless, but he wouldn't have beaten Jag. He lost to Jag because of that problem. Not just because of goodbye messages and final speeches, that only swung my vote, but the entirety of the game, he was never able to talk in a way that was like, okay, this guy is a strategic force. No one knew. Except, like, me. Like, I was the only one who kind of clocked him, but I just couldn't do anything about it. And then I started liking him. Another issue with Matt's game is, like, because he is so vulnerable with the other house guests, he cries a lot, he confides in people, he wants to, cry into someone's arms. It also leads to people feeling more betrayed when he betrays them, and more importantly, not thinking he's a forceful enough strategic player. Thinking Jag is the alpha of the two, which I think he is. I think Jag is the alpha strategically. That doesn't make him the better player. I think if Matt is on 100 seasons, he gets to the end, 70 of them, wins 30 of those. He's just a really, his formula does well every single season he's on. It's almost impossible to, here's what I'll say. Explain to me how Matt gets evicted from BB25. Name a spot. Because he survives the final 4 and 3 without immunity. Jag got his way between the two of them the entire endgame. There was no end. Oh, God, that's such a pet peeve of mine. All right. Class, gather around. Jag did not outplay him in the endgame that much. Matt had no power. Jag had all the comps. Jag got to choose who went home at every point, and he chose to keep Matt at every stage. You guys are making me defend Matt like this. What was Matt supposed to do? All Matt could do was be like, Jag, please. If he was too sketchy, Jag would cut him. If Riley stays longer, they're seen as a couple. Riley always goes before Matt. Riley is just so much more of a presence in the house in that way. This hurts Cory more than it hurts us, okay? Seriously, I hate the guy. Not a fan. He could have pushed back about Suri. It was Jag and Bowie who were the votes. That would have been a terrible move for him to push back against Suri going. Because that susses Jag the hell out. Because realistically, there's no reason to evict Suri or to evict Felicia instead of Suri. Except for the fact that Matt wants Suri to take him to the end. Or Matt wants Suri so he can take her to the end. Sketching Jag out in that way is just making it more likely that Jag cuts him at the final 4 or 3. And in fairness to Matt versus Jag, because I think it's always interesting who's the better player of the two of them, if Matt knew that Jag would beat him, Matt would have cut Jag. Jag thought Matt was going to beat him and took Matt. I think that's pretty obvious, right? Matt really thought he would beat Jag. Yeah, because I told him that. That he was doing that based on good information. I told him he was the best player leaving the house. Because I thought it. And then, obviously everything else happened. So I think comparing the two, it's actually not that close unless, again, you just care about competitions. Matt had Suri fully snowed the entirety of the season. As much as Cory had a blind spot of Bowie Jane and this person. America had a blind spot of Jag and Blue. Felicia had a blind spot of Suri. Everyone had a blind spot of Suri. Suri had a blind spot of Matt. And that was everyone in the house. And I'll mention it. I think in some ways, I want to be careful how I say this. Obviously, Matt's deaf, and I think in moments that caused people to underestimate him, which was helpful to Matt. Matt was able to play from this, being this hulking Olympian. He was able to play on, a much lower threat profile than he should have been. Granted, he had to fucking play the game deaf. That's really hard. And as much as I think the guy's an idiot, that is still an impressive feat, objectively, however you look at it. But that doesn't make him a good player. If you're arguing Matt's not a good player, there just aren't good players in Big Brother. I don't know what... I don't know what that opinion is. You could say he's not as good as Ashley, if you will. That's fine. The reason why I give Matt, I think, more credit than I did previously was even though he fucked up his jury management monumentally and loses to Jag, he beats everyone else. His play style is not one that can't win. It's not Vince, where Vince is going to get to the end every time and it feels like this is his Achilles heel. Matt, things shake out a little differently, he could win. And he wins a lot of different scenarios. So, that's my Matt thing. I think he consistently gets to the end game more than anyone on this list, and I think he has reasonable win equity in the end game. And that's good. Vince was very lucky to get to the end. I wouldn't say lucky. But that was by design. It was just, how could he win from that position? I don't know. I'm arguing against privilege as a major factor in being a good player. I mean, I think it's really hard to distinguish what is a result of his gameplay and what is a result of privilege. You take it into account, of course. But I do think this is the last white player I'm ranking, right? So, is that a funny take? Is Matt the best white player of the new era? Maybe. You have to take it into account. It's just hard to figure out like how much of a role it plays. So that's all I got to say about Matt. I think this ranking's fair. Just be honest. Here's what I'll say. It's Big Brother 30. It's Big Brother 30. All these players are playing for the first time again. Who do you want to put your money on? Who do you feel most comfortable putting your money on? Ashley, Morgan, Rachel, Matt. Are you kidding me? I'm betting on Matt every day of the week. Are you really? You think I'm betting on Ashley to win another season? Betting on Morgan to win another season? Rachel? I'm sorry. I'm not doing that. That feels like a roller coaster. It's Morgan or Matt. I can see Morgan with comps, maybe. All right. Number 5, Suri. So here's the context in which I'm rating Suri this way. Because I famously, I think I'm a Suri critic. Like, mostly I'm talking about, like, Suri's flaws because it's so obvious how good she is. If she's a first-time player on Big Brother, I think she could win the game. I think Suri's a first-time player. She could win Big Brother. Having the reputation meant no one could take her to the end, and everyone knew they couldn't take her to the end. Even if they didn't know the nitty-gritty of Micronesia and all the moves she made. The 3-2-1. I think she could snow somebody into taking her to the final 2 and losing. Just look at it. In previous seasons, Jag took Matt. MJ took Chelsea. In 27, we think Vince would have taken Morgan. This mistake happens every season. Monty took Taylor. Ozza would have taken Xavier over Big D. This always just happens. But nobody cared about Survivor. Yeah, but do you understand in terms of, like, we can't let Suri get to the end? Like, no one's going to take her to the final 2. And I think on a new season where she doesn't have, like, any distinction as being a returning player, you're arguing a totally separate point to what I'm saying, America. That's why she got as far in the game as she did in the jury phase. I'm talking why no one would take her to the final 2. The problem with Suri's game is simple. She's an excellent player socially, probably the best Big Brother's ever seen, maybe the best reality TV's ever seen. Strategically, pretty messy. She does a lot. She's very active, locks down the game. Like, she makes the wrong decision a ton, but she usually recovers from those wrong decisions pretty well. Comp-wise, she cannot win anything, and that includes quizzes. Which, when you get to a final 3 and you're such an obvious strategic and social threat, who the fuck's going to take you to the final 2? It feels like checkmate. You know what I mean? I think that's a harsh way of putting it, Jagging Man. What I think is, on a normal season, I think Suri would have a better shot of getting some fool to take her to the final 2. So I don't think she's drawing dead, and I think one-on-one social game, which is the most important thing in Big Brother, it always has been, even when comps, have inflated importance in the modern era. Social game is the most important. And she's the best. I was fully on to her. I knew exactly who Suri was, and she got to me. I was very skeptical. She got to me. It's just hard. America and I would be laying in bed at night and be like, shit, I like Suri. Suri wins final 6. It's still me or Bowie evicted. That's a flaw. I mean, look, Suri's biggest issue in BB25 was Matt snowed her the entire season. And I think if she wins an HOH in the jury phase, she probably targets Jag and Bowie. Now, if Jag wins the veto, who's the replacement nom? At that point, does she fold and put up Matt or America? You don't know. It didn't seem to me like Suri was ever targeting Matt. Which, in fairness, might have been the right call, because who the fuck else was taking Suri to the end? Bowie wasn't letting her anywhere near there. Felicia wasn't going to be able to take her. Jag was never taking her. America was smart enough not to take her. She kind of needed Matt as like her one way to get to the final two. But Matt was self-preservationist. He was not going out on a limb to protect Suri. However, if you put Suri on a new player season, she's going to run the house for the first 8 weeks. And if she doesn't have like a very perfect, like accumulation of events happening, she could run the house till the end of the season. She's very close to just running the game with Izzy and Jared, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, she's very close to that happening. Now, she makes some tactical errors. She gets rid of Riley instead of Cameron. Big mistake. She gets rid of Heisem instead of Cameron. Big mistake. She gets rid of Jag and then has Matt use the power on Jag. That's a big mistake. Then she keeps Jag over Red. That's a big mistake. She makes the wrong move every time. The thing is, she recovered from all those wrong moves every time. The one she couldn't recover from was the Red thing, but even that required Cam winning HOH and the kayak and Jared doing all his bullshit and Izzy playing poorly. Like, even that could have been fine. Now, here's, I think, where I differ from a lot of the big Suri fans. I don't think her game post-flip was very impressive. I don't think it's really her fault. There wasn't much for her to do. But I don't give her a ton of credit for, like, maneuvering to the final five. I don't think that. I think she could have not said a word, and she also ends up 5th. Because it became a competition game, and it just didn't make sense to evict Suri instead of any of these other people. And I think a lot of people view that part of the game. Suri's playing a lot better because Jared's gone. It's like, okay. She also didn't get to make any decisions, so she didn't have the opportunity to make the wrong decision. The first half of the game, she made every choice, and everyone was wrong. And in the second half of the game, she didn't get to make a decision, and all of a sudden, she's like subtly maneuvering through the house very optimally. I think Suri's clearly a player who should not be in power. Like, when she's in power, it's bad. And there's the factor of wanting to quit the game. I want to contextualize that in terms of, like, if it was her first season, I think it's different. I think there has to, like, you have to acknowledge the psychological difference of it's her 9th reality show. Her son was voted out. Like, it's lame behavior wanting to quit the game, but I get it. Rachel wanted to quit the game for a weekend. It happens. Ultimately, she wanted to win the season. She was fighting for the most part. You know, I don't hold that against her, I think, as strongly as others. She had very little agency in the end. I mean, that's the thing. Like, all her social maneuvering, you could say, like, her one-on-one conversations were impressive. They just, none of them mattered. Like, none of them. She never got Blue under control. Blue was always going to side with Matt and Jag. She got America to work with her, but, like, America was smart enough to want to work with Suri. Like, America wasn't stupid. She wasn't going to work with Matt and Jag. She never was able to work with me successfully. You know, I was down to work with her, but, you know, I voted out her son. I get why she wouldn't want to do it. Suri is the best social player in reality competition history. I feel that way after talking to her in the game. But strategically, she makes a lot of mistakes, and comp-wise, she can't win anything. It's number 5 to me. Now, I'm going to now talk about the next 2 players, because I think a lot of people are surprised this guy's this high. Kyland, Xavier. As 4 and 3. Here's what's so confusing to me. Here's what's super confusing to me. I think Kyland is better than Xavier at every aspect of Big Brother. I think he is sharper strategically. I think he is more active socially. And I think he is better at competitions. But he self-destructed in the end for no reason because of, like, his ego and his I want to be Batman thing. Like, the entire season, Kyland played better than Xavier. But at the final 6, he flipped a switch and said, I'm going to lose the game. I choose to forfeit. Not really forfeit, but I choose to make my path way harder than it needs to be. And Xavier, I think, was a little bit less active strategically, a little bit less active socially, a little bit more boring, had less influence on HOH's decisions, but when he got to the end game, he correctly, obviously found, maybe I should get rid of Kyland when I have the chance. And Kyland said, I want to go against the best. So they're Batman and Superman, but like Superman whoop Batman's ass if they're in the Big Brother house. Batman doesn't have access to anything. I just don't remember Kyland's social game being good. It's kind of similar to Morgan's, where he's just everywhere. He had some people who were like deathly loyal to him. He's obviously in the cookout. He's pretty well connected within the cookout. He's obviously got Tiffany as a very, very close ally. Ozza sides with the boys. That's good for him. But I do think when you look at the span of BB23, the two people most instrumental in the cookout success were Kyland and Tiffany. To me, that's clear. And I think Xavier in the endgame played the best. A lot of it fell into his lap. However, this is not me giving Xavier a ton of credit for making the obvious move. It's condemning Kyland for making such a ridiculous move. Like, it's such a ridiculous train of thought to get him to making that move. I just can't see Kyland as top 10. I think it's impossible to not have him top 10. Yeah, he was one of the big outreach people for the cookout. Obviously, he's close to Derek X. Super close with Sarah Beth. The one who's able to get Derek X out in that way. All of his HOHs are pretty reasonable. Obviously, he should have targeted Xavier in the endgame, but didn't. I just think very simply, Kyland's a guy who, like, strategically understands the game. I think if he came back, he wouldn't have this stupid idea of, Batman, Superman. Socially, I think he's pretty good. Very active, gets around. And comp-wise, I think he's excellent. I think he could go toe-to-toe with anybody. He's just a really good triple threat. Now, his inexplicable decision-making in the final 6, it is what it is. That happened, and you hold that against him, and that's why he's below Xavier. If both of them were targeting each other at the final 4 and Xavier just won the veto and got rid of him, I have Kyland ranked above Xavier. But the fact that Kyland planned on taking X to the end, I can't do it. I can't. So, you would say that... how do you say Taylor is better than Kyland? I don't think you could see Morgan Ashley. Look, I have him ranked 4th. And I think it's not even a big fall-off between him and X. I think they're very similar. I think X is just more consistent. Fun fact, by the way. This is actually a useless BB fun fact. Both Kyland and Xavier have 3 HOHs, 3 vetoes, and have been nominated 5 times. Taylor is genuinely the best winner of the new era. That's, okay, another indefensible opinion. I feel like you've had a couple indefensible opinions. That's not a viable position to hold as a Big Brother fan. Definitely could be your favorite. That's fine. Not the worst winner, either. I think you could argue as high as 3, but... So, by the way, I just want to put this out there. So far, I've gotten comments saying that if Chelsea's not at number 1, this list is a sham, and if she is at number 1, it's ludicrous. So, I'm in a no-win situation. I put Kyland below the BB27 trio. I think Kyland has such a... Like, they all have such more glaring flaws than Kyland. Comps matter. That's a big part of it. And then strategically, Kyland was not worse than Suri. He just wasn't. Socially, he was worse than Suri, but he was better than, better than basically everyone below him. Worse than Matt, better than the trio. Better than Ashley socially, better than Morgan socially. Better than Rachel. Chelsea is not better than Ashley and Taylor as a winner. Taylor's ability to pick up the game on the fly and bounce back constantly is just way more impressive. Yeah, we're just on different pages, man. If Cory was on BB26, no way you let Chelsea win. I don't think I'm able to stop her. All right. Xavier. He's just like Kyland, but a little worse in every category, but not as ridiculous of an endgame. He's just so solid. You put him on any season, he does a good job, especially as a first-time player. Nowadays, as a winner, he might be a threat, I just think he's just so consistent. If you expect him to spin out on most seasons. Yeah, but I think Morgan could spin out in a lot of seasons. I think Ashley can too. You know, I think a lot of players have the ability to. Suri. It's not really unique to Kylan. Xavier's just even keel. He's good physically. When he's in power, he does a fine job. Socially, he's a charming guy. Threat level, was huge, but no one was targeting him. Nominated a ton, but that was the Cookouts game. That was how it worked. In the end game, he gets in a final 3 where he wins against anybody. I think they're all taking him too. Even if Big D's not going to take him, Big D's not going to have the opportunity to make a decision. Oz has taken him to the end for some reason. Makes the right call to get rid of Kylan at 4. Makes the right call to get rid of Tiffany at 6. He just plays the end game perfectly, but I think a lot of it fell into his lap. So that's where I have Xavier. Number 3. I think he's one of the most straightforward rankings. He was always number 3 when I was doing these. I was debating him versus Kylan, but Kylan just outplayed himself so hard. Which leads us to the top 2. We have Chelsea and Tiffany. Who do you guys think I have ranked at number 1? Let's do a poll. Actually, no. We'll just say, who do you guys think is the best player of the 2? Who do you guys think is the better player you're voting for? %, Chelsea. Fuck you guys. I got Chelsea number 2. Now look, between Chelsea and Tiffany, yeah, my mom says Tiffany too. Between Chelsea and Tiffany, I think it's very close. I think it's in the eyes of the beholder. I think Chelsea is a much more flawed player than Tiffany, and there's enough weirdness with BB23 where I just have more faith in Tiffany as a player. A lot of it is the eye test between Chelsea and Tiffany, to be honest. The resume, the records, the placement, all of that tells you that Chelsea is the better player. All of it. But I watched both seasons. BB23, I had to do a lot of homework to catch up, to be fair. And I thought Tiffany was better. You're here. You want to see where you're ranked, Morgan? We'll do the recap in a minute, Morgan. Don't worry. Chelsea on BB26, in my opinion, plays an extremely strong game, but there's a lot of flaws in how she plays. The first half of the season, the main criticism towards Chelsea was she was way too passive. Morgan, I'll show you the full top 16 after I finish this up. We have Chelsea. She wins 4 HOHs. I think on a majority of these HOHs, she does a good job. I was a bit critical of her first HOH because, she had the chance to really solidify the collective and the Pentagon. She doesn't. Not the biggest deal. I'm not one to hold your competition against you super harshly. I don't think that's fair. However, I think it should be acknowledged who Tiffany was playing against versus who Chelsea was playing against. And I think Chelsea had very little adversity, and I think a lot of it was not due to her own gameplay. The 2 main examples are MJ just being deathly loyal to Chelsea, which I think I give Chelsea more credit for that. Chelsea knew how to play with MJ, give her credit. T-Core being locked in with Chelsea was weird to me. That didn't make much sense, and that was kind of why Chelsea was so powerful in the house. Was the fact that she had MJ and Cam, and then she also had the trio. I don't know why she had the trio. I didn't see it on feeds. I watched that season as closely as I've ever watched a season. There was really no adversity for her the second Tucker went out, and Tucker's a really bad strategic player. Now, when she's on the block, nominated by Tucker, I think she does a good job campaigning. Like that campaign. But after that, there's just not much game left to play. You guys, I think, here's the 2 weeks, class gather around. The 2 weeks that I think make me feel differently about Chelsea than I do about Tiffany is the final 10 and the final 9. At the final 10, it's the Joseph boot. Getting rid of Joseph is incredibly important for Chelsea's game. Why? Because getting rid of Joseph weakens Joseph, Leah, and Quinn. Quinn's her biggest threat at this point. By far. It's not close. Getting rid of Chemo does not accomplish very much. Right? Like, the trio is in her pocket because T-Core is leading the trio, and T-Core is in her pocket. And she flips in, like, the last second off a speech. We barely even saw them communicate, her and MJ. It barely happens. It does happen, and it's the right move. Smoothed out by history. But we were all there, and that was incredibly messy, and I think it's very fortunate for Chelsea that that's how that worked out. And then in the final 9, she wins HOH, and she makes the correct decision to target Quinn. That's the right call. And then she's campaigning to keep Quinn. Because Chelsea's chaotic. She's a flipper. she's not very steadfast in her gameplay. Right? Then we go on to Janky Week, and she's got the whole Cam caught situation, and that's weird. Like, what's going on here? Like, why is she alienating Cam for no reason? Luckily, Cam doesn't care and doesn't do anything about it. Luckily, T-Core is just in her back pocket. She loses T-Core that week to MJ. Now she does a great job in the final 7. Gets MJ to target Leah. That's basically the game-winning move for her. In the final 6, maybe she's allegedly in danger. I think she was fine. It's hard to imagine a scenario where she goes home in that double eviction, and she basically has the game locked up from the final 6, which is, I think, her most impressive attribute as a winner. She had the game locked up earlier than most winners. And even at the final 8, it was pretty hard to imagine how Chelsea would lose. Compared to Tiffany, who got 6th, and it was kind of hard to imagine how she would win with the cookout being the final 6. In competitions, Chelsea is good. I don't think she's a comp beast. 4 HOHs, I think, overstates her comp ability. Maybe that sounds harsh, but she won a lot of quizzes, and she's obviously in the end game, so she's competing against very low numbers. Give her credit. She won the comps. She's clearly a far above average competitor. I do not think she's a comp beast and can reliably win out in any way. I don't believe that. I think she had a pretty weak cast to go against competitively, and she did pretty well against that weak cast. And her magnum opus, of course, is MJ taking her to the end. That's awesome. The best thing you could do in Big Brother is have the worst player in the house be your number 1 ally when they're winning comps. It's just checkmate. And she did a really good job of, like, after she pushed away MJ for no reason for the first half of the season, she locked in with her in the second half, and that was the winning move. She didn't need to win out, meanwhile Tiffany did. So let's talk about Tiffany, who gets 6th place, wins 2 HOHs, obviously in the cookout. There's a lot of contextualization you have to do with the cookout. Tiffany's best path was not going to the final 6 with the cookout, and I can't just give Tiffany the win and say if she didn't go with the cookout, she would have won. You know what I mean? And I think this shows I'm not biased, because you guys know I'm not the biggest Tiffany fan, but I'm not going to just give her credit. She would have won the game if the other thing happened. But she did know that the other path was better for her. I think she acknowledged that going with Derek, Claire, Hannah, getting rid of the boys, that was her path to winning the season. And she actively chose against that path because getting in the final 6 of the cookout was important enough for her. And I understand that. Right? Like, I'm not going to criticize her too much for making a game-losing mistake and doing X, Y, and Z. We all know the circumstances surrounding the cookout, and I understand why Tiffany did what she did. In terms of the day-to-day running the house, Tiffany felt more like Suri, whereas Chelsea felt more like a good house guest. Like, Tiffany really did have her seeds all throughout the house. And who went home largely came down to what did Tiffany want to do. Now, like Chelsea, like Suri, she would often try to flip a vote and then, like, change her mind last minute or fail to flip. Like, she was messy. She did not play a flawless game by any means. But Tiffany has the ability to run a season from day 1 to day 100. I don't think Chelsea could do that. Now, if they're both underdogs, they're both on the bottom, I think Chelsea has a better chance of winning out, digging herself out of that position. But I don't think Tiffany's ever going to be on the bottom. In short, I watched Tiffany play. I watched Chelsea play in one-on-one conversations. Tiffany was better. Who do I think understands the strategy of Big Brother better? I think it's Tiffany. Who do I think is a better social player? It's not even close. It's Tiffany. And who's better at comps? Chelsea. I don't think the gap is crazy. I think Chelsea is solidly better than Tiffany in comps. But I don't think Chelsea's a comp beast in the way where like, okay, that feels like it can meaningfully override the other two categories. Let me play it to you another way. If Tiffany is on BB26, how do you think that season goes? If we just swap Chelsea for Tiffany, it's her first time playing, how does that season go? It's like, that season might be the worst season of all time. Tiffany just rolls. And, like, what does Chelsea do on 23? She might do pretty well as well. Like, yeah, I think Chelsea would be fine. So I'm not going to kill Tiffany for making that choice. I'm not going to kill Chelsea for having a weak cast. I just saw both of them play. I think Tiffany's more talented at Big Brother. Who played the stronger individual game? Chelsea. But this is where the rich tapestry comes into play. So that's my rankings. That's the top players of the new era. The top, what is it, 82 we started with? We'll show Morgan the full top 16 today. We started with Cam Sullivan-Brown, Derek, Jag, myself, Mr. Bruner, Monty, Taylor, Ashley, the one and only, Morgad, Rachel, Matt Klotz, Surrey, Kyland, X, Chelsea, and Tiffany Mitchell. I think Chelsea does well on BB25, actually. I need a third just for the plot. I will say, I already anticipated your counterclaims about Rachel. I defended against them. But I think the top three in your season's fun, Morgan. It's really like, you can make the case for any ordering of you three. I think Tiffany also dominates Chelsea and gets her way if they're on together. I believe so, too. And I think the problem is, Morgan, you just can't rate Rachel. Like, how do you rate Rachel? What do you do? If she got successfully backdoored to the final 9, she's easily third. But it just didn't happen. Morgan is better than Chelsea. I think Morgan's better at comps. I think it's just big picture. There's like all facets of the game. Chelsea was just so much more dominating. Rachel's aura makes conventional ranking equipment malfunction. The Roach Tapestry does not know what to do with Rachel O'Reilly. Chelsea had 6 people playing for her to win at top 9. I think 6 is too much. I mean, I'd give her Cam. MJ was not playing for her to win, but unknowingly was playing for her to win. And then T-Core. Who else are you saying? I'm not giving you Chemo and Rubina. Like, they were passive and weren't going to do anything, but yeah, I don't know about that. So that's the ranking. Who do you think is the most controversial placement of the entire thing? Somehow, I still think it's Keanu. I think it's Keanu at like 35 or whatever I had him at. Let's do the full list to get a big picture, and then we're going to get offline because this has been a 2-hour stream on a school night. It's just irresponsible. I'm curious about Matt over Jag's ranking. Well, Jag was evicted and should have been evicted like 3 other times. Matt never got close to getting evicted. All right, new era Big Brother rankings. Luke, Paloma, Big D, that's right, Dad. Kenny Kelly, Amy, the Pooch Man, the Pooch Man again, Frenchie, Lisa, Brent, Kelly, Adrian, Riley, Zay, Big D, Heisem, Travis, Indy, Mr. Durston, Utley, Terrence, DJ Showtime, Nicole, Whitney, Riley Jeffries, Brittany D'Angelo, Jasmine, Zach, Angela, Tucker, MJ, Cameron, Felicia, Christian Birkenberger, Mickey, Mr. Lovely, Amira, Blue Kim, Rubina, Catherine, Ozza, Catherine's kind of high, no? Mimi, Ava Pearl, Alyssa Snyder, Alyssa Lopez, Jimmy Haggerty, Will, Keanu, Sarah Beth, Cedric, Lauren, T-Core, Joseph, Chemo, Leah, Joseph Abden, Brittany Hoops, Izzy Glacier, Quinn Martin, Bowie Jane Ball, Brooklyn Rivera, Kyle Capner, Vinny Panaro, Matt Turner, Chada, Claire, Miss America Lopez, Dogs at the Crib, Derek X, Jag, Cory, Bruner, Monty, Taylor, Ashley, Morgan, Rachel, Matt Klotz, Surrey, Kyland, Xavier, Chelsea, and Tiffany. Any final questions before we sign off? I think we'll do a player rankings debate show next stream where I'll make a Google form and you guys are going to give your reservations about my list. I don't think anyone's going to be annoyed at my America placement because either they're big America fans or they acknowledge that I might be biased. Like, if you think I'm ranking America too high, I feel like I'd be surprised if you'd have, like, reservations about it. This list was trash. Thank you. We cuddle every night. It's true. That's your girlfriend? Yes. She's too low? Well, look, she's great, but, like, Cam Sullivan Brown, I mean, he's... I mean, that's Cam Sullivan Brown we're talking about. Okay. Morgan, are you still here? Are you going live soon? Should I hang on for a raid? Digital Daily soon. I'll do it tonight. Absolutely. You're not, hee. Okay. Do we have Quinifer going live? He usually goes live at 8:12, right? Did he post that he's going live? Because I might just preemptively raid his stream. America clears Tiffany in life for sure. Sorry, that sounded shady. Tiffany's fine. I don't have that much beef with Tiffany. She's fine. Within the next 10 minutes, I'll be on. Alright, well, let's just raid him. You guys can stick around in the offline chat and hang out. So, hang out. Give Quinn a surprise. He's going to go live, or about to be live, see like 80 people in his chat. It's going to be crazy. So, that's all. See you guys later. Bye-bye.